Okay, good morning. As we go to the Chumash, the Chitas of today, the Chumash of today, we are in the book of Numbers, Pashas Bahaleischa. We are holding on chapter 8, verse number 15. Sorry. Let's start again. Verse number 15. The Torah is in the middle of talking about how to bring the Levium, how to dedicate the Levium to the service of the Beis Hamikdash, to the service in the temple. So and after that, the Levium should come to do the service of the Oyel Moed, be tied to Isam, and you shall purify them, be nafta Isam Knufa, and you shall uplift them, uplift them as a waving. Because they are wholly given to me. B'nei Yisrael, from the Jewish people. Tachas pitras korechem b'bechor. They are instead of all the first opening of the womb, the firstborn of Israel. Lakachti Eisam mikol b'nei Yisrael, from the Jewish people. Lakachti Eisam li, I've taken them to me. So Rashi says, Nisunim, what's a double expression of giving? They were given over to the service of carrying, and they were given also to the service of singing in the Beis Hamikdash. They were the choir in the temple. Pitras, what means pitras? To open, that they were the firstborn. The first child that comes out of firstborn is a child that comes out natural birth. Not through a cesarean section, only through a natural birth is it considered a firstborn in the laws. In the concept of redeeming a firstborn. Verse 17. Because all firstborns belong to me. Whether it's in a man or an animal, for the day that I have smitten every firstborn of the land of Egypt, the firstborns are now dashtim oisem li. I sanctify the firstborns to be to me. So Rashi says, the firstborns are mine by right, for I protected them among the Egyptian firstborn. I took them for myself. And then they made a mistake. They sinned in the golden calf, and that's why right now they basically are given. They lost their rights to firstborn, and I've given it over to the tribe of Levi. Now the tribe of Levi have taken over the firstborns. Verse 18. I've taken the Levium instead of all the firstborns of the Jewish people. And I took the Levium. I've given them to Aaron and his son, from the midst of Jewish people, so that they should do the service of what the Jewish people need to do. In the tent of meeting, to bring forgiveness on the Jewish people. So God forbid there shouldn't be a plague amongst the Jewish people. If a Jew comes closer to what is holy, the Jewish people will not be plagued. Why? As Rashi will say. So Rashi says, if you look at this pasuk, it says 5 times Bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael. 5 times it mentions Bnei Yisrael, thus declaring the affection of God for them. For their mention is repeated in one verse so many times. As the 5 books of the Torah, I saw this. So you see how much the Eibishter loves Bnei Yisrael, that he keeps on mentioning them over and over and over. And that's, you see how God loves Bnei Yisrael. I saw this in Bereshis Rabbah. Bnei Yisrael. So Rashi says, so that there will no need for them to approach the holy sanctuary. God wanted to make sure that the Jewish people do not come to the sanctuary by mistake. They don't come into the sanctuary by mistake, God forbid. And then, so therefore, the Eibishter made the Levim to protect the sanctuary. In essence, by protecting the sanctuary, they were protecting Jewish people from coming into the sanctuary by mistake. Right. Verse 20, Vayas Moshe v'Aaron cholas bnei Yisrael, and Moshe and Aaron, the entire congregation of Israel, did Levim to the Levim, kechol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe, whatever God commanded Moshe. Levim to this concept, Kain asu bnei Yisrael. This is what the Jewish people did. So that's what Moshe presented them, and Aaron lifted them, and the Israelites rested their hands. So each one did their obligation. Moshe Rabbeinu brought the Levim to Aaron. Aaron lifted them, and the Jewish people put their hands on them, and they did what they did. Verse 21, and the Levim cleansed themselves, and they washed the garment, and Aaron uplifted them. Lefnei Hashem, before God, Aaron atoned them to cleanse them. And then the Levim came to do the service in the Ohel Moed. Lefnei Aaron, before Aaron, Lefnei Bana, before his children. Kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe, as God commanded Moshe al Levim, concerning the Levim, Keinasu, this is exactly what they did. So now she says, the Torah again writes this. This is written to extol those who performed this rite, and those whom was performed for. None of them objected. They all did it with happiness and joy. And the Levim, the Israelim, and Moshe and Aaron, everybody was involved, and everybody did this with great simcha. Verse 23. And God spoke to Moshe and he said, Zeis Asher Levim. This is the law concerning the Levites. From the age of 25 and above, from 25 and above, that's when they come to do the service. So now she says, Shonim Sulamim. Coming from the Kahanim, we know the Kahanim are not are apostle. They become defiled or incapable of doing the service if they have a mum. They have many things. Many things automatically push off a kohen for doing the service. The only thing that makes a Levi unfit is age. Shanim Sulamem, age. Age, it's only about age, by apostle. The Ein Hamulim Sulamem, no blemishes the push off a Levi. Elsewhere it says from the age of 30. How can you reconcile 25, it says in one verse, and another verse it says 30? However, from the age of 25, they came to study the laws of the service. They would study for 5 years. And at the age of 30, they'll begin their work. From here, we learn that a student who does not experience success in his learning in 5 years, if you have learned 5 years and you simply can't get the subject, it's time to move to another topic. And that's interesting Gemara in the Talmud. So the Gemara will never experience it. If you taught a Levi the service for 5 years and he just couldn't get it, it's time for another job. So he worked from 25, he started to learn at 25, 30 years he went into the service, Ben Chamishim Shana, and then 50 years. So he had 20 years of Avodah. From 30 to 50. Now we know when does everything starts, so to say, go downhill at 50. From 50 years old, he has to retire. You have to realize that the Levium, especially in the Mishkan, had a very hard job. This was not an easy job to take apart the Mishkan, to carry the Mishkan. This was a very extenuous and a very it was a very intense labor. So Rashi said, that's what Rashi said. You see, Rashi says, carrying in the shoulders However, he can return to the locking the gates, singing, and loading the wagons. This is the meaning. He shall minister his brethren as Echav, that he's allowed the Levi can continue the basic, the work to watch the Mishkan, to sing in the Beis Hamikdash. That can go past 50, but the actual labor of carrying the Mishkan was until 50. Shara says Echav ba'Ohel Moed after 50. He helps his brothers in the Oil Moed Lishmer to protect the Mishkan. But he cannot do any work, any hard labor after 50. He's not capable of doing. This also you do for the Levim, the Mishreisam in their charge. Rashi says, the camp around the tent, to assemble, to dismantle. At the time of the travel, they can do that service, but the hard labor is until 50 years old. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. We are in the middle of chapter 4 of the Shar HaYichud, the portal of oneness and belief in God, Emunah. Now, the Rebbe is explaining the belief of a Jew in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is the belief of a Jew in God? What is our belief? What is the true meaning of belief in God? And he explained that he gave the analogy of the sun and the ray of the sun. That the sun gives the ray to everything in the world, but the ray of the sun is totally bottled to the sun, self-understood. The ray of the sun, when it goes into the sun, is nothing. So too, ultimately, the Eibishter gives life to everything. He gives existence to everything in the world, and a continual existence. And ultimately, it's only a ray that comes into the physical existence, and not the essence, because if the essence would be revealed in the physical existence, there wouldn't be a physical existence. So therefore, God made a tzimtzum. He had to contract himself, and that's the meaning of the ray. The ray comes from the contraction of a God contracting himself to be able to come into a ray of godliness, which this ray of godliness comes into the human being, or to physicality, and what happens is that the physicality can continue to exist, so to say, and have its own existence, so to say, seemingly an illusion of its own existence. And he explains this a little bit more deep. Now the attribute Hagodel, actually ended yesterday off with the concept of Hagodel, the greatness of God. What is the greatness of God? Is the chesed shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is the attribute of kindness of God, that he spreads forth his life forth in all worlds. So to create them from nothing to something, that's the ultimate chesed, unlimited kindness, unlimited worlds, unlimited amounts in every world, unlimited levels, unlimited capabilities. Why? Because that's the chesed shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the kindness of God. It's exclusively praise of the Holy One. Bless me. That's what we call God HaGodel. Because there's nothing in the world that can create something from nothing. Only God can create something from nothing. And that's an unbelievable kindness. We create something from something. Okay, which is it's a great thing. But it's not that we didn't do something for nothing, and to create something for nothing, and therefore to have it in existence constantly. That's an aspect of true act of kindness. So creation of Exel Nilo is utterly beyond the realm of creative beings. In the words of the Medrash, even if all mankind were to gather together, they would not be able to create even the wing of a gnat and animate it. It's impossible. For nothing. Now you can create the wing of a gnat maybe, but for something else. Create a wing of a gnat without anything, it would be impossible for a human being to do that. You can bring all the people in the world together, bring all the scientists together. You cannot create something from nothing. You can create something from something. The Eibishter is the only one who created something from nothing. So we can never, that's why humans can never understand God's creation. They can understand creation from creation. So how far are you going to go into splitting the atom? Or you want to go to create something from the most minute of something is unbelievable. Modern technology is phenomenal, but it's ultimately something from something. So the truth is, this attribute, benevolence, that God creates something from nothing, is beyond the understanding of man. That's why people struggle with this. Humanity struggles with this because we struggle with the concept of something from nothing. We can't comprehend it, and therefore it's hard for us to believe it, because since we cannot comprehend it, we cannot believe it. So we say it, we express it, and surely the nations of the world who don't learn Torah cannot believe in such a concept, that something comes from nothing. And that's why that's why the world struggles with it. Science struggles with it. How does something come from nothing? It has to come from something. But a Yid understands this, should understand this, and should comprehend that the Eibishter created the world. God created the world. We read in Bereshis bara Elokim, as a Shemayim v'Yisrael. The Eibishter created the world. The Eibishter could create something from nothing. We cannot do that. We're humans, but God could do that. And why? Because God is the concept of Chesed. The concept of Chesed has no limitation. That's you should know one of the midas HaChesed. One of the true attributes of Chesed, no limitation. That's why we should learn Chesed from God, not from another human being what kindness is. We should learn from God what the meaning of kindness is. No, unlimited. If you have a limited kindness, it's not the true concept of kindness. So the true concept of kindness is God who has unlimited. Where does God show unlimited kindness? That he creates something from nothing. I mean, it's an unbelievable kindness to create something from something. And that's why humans have also kindness, that they create something from something. Thank God that technology and marvels of medicine, Baruch Hashem, humans have used their great intellect and their great capacity and their own limit and their kindness to create things that are helping humanity. It's an act of kindness, but it's not the ultimate act of kindness. The ultimate act of kindness is God who creates something from nothing, and that's an unlimited kindness. Because ultimately it's not in the power of an intellectual of any creature to comprehend through the faculty of wisdom, to understand through the faculty of understanding this attribute, which is the ability to create a being out of nothing and to verify it's impossible to us to understand it. We cannot comprehend it. And that's why we call God HaGadol. There's no greater concept in the world than God. There's no greater wonder in the world than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the greatest wonder in the world, you don't got to go to the 7 wonders of the world. The greatest wonder in the world is sitting right in front of you, because creation is the greatest wonder in the world. Not that you look out your window and you see a tree outside your window. That's the greatest wonder in the world, because the Eibishter created that tree from nothing. And it's here, it became a something, which is the greatest creation in the world, which is the greatest chesed. There's no greater kindness in the world than to see how God created this world, and he continuously creates it from nothing. Kiabriya Yeshmain, and underlines it. And that's why we as Jews have to go, we are Jews, we actually believe in science because the Eibishter gave the world to humans to develop it, and that's why we need science to develop the world, self-understood, and that's Baruch Hashem through humanity. That's why God gave humans the capability to develop this world, Baruch Hashem, with their wisdom. But the Eibishter created the world from nothing. So our whole development is nothing in comparison to God's chesed. So all the chesed in the world is nothing in comparison to God's chesed, which is an unbelievable chesed. Because the chesed of God is we can't even comprehend it. Forget about do it. We can't even comprehend God's chesed. Because the creation of an exo nilo is a matter which transcends the intellect of all creation. In much of it stems from the divine attribute of gedula, of greatness of God. And God, as the Zohar says, God and his attributes are one. You cannot separate chesed from God. By you and me, you can separate his chesed from him. And we do separate his chesed. As a human being does chesed. By the Eibishter is chesed. As the Zohar writes, the Eibishter and his causations, his attributes, his cause of God is one. So the Eibishter is chesed. And chesed is a part of God. And that's something we cannot, even that concept is hard for us to comprehend. Because by us, there's the person and there's the kindness. And that's why he's sometimes kind and he's sometimes not kind. Because there's the person and there's the kindness. It's two different entities. By God is unlimited kindness. And there, because he's constantly kind. The nature of kindness is to do kindness. So he cannot stop kindness. And that's why God gives kindness even to that entities in the world that are opposite of him. Because God is a true concept of kindness. Unlimited kindness. Just like it's impossible for the mind of a creation to comprehend its creator, it's impossible for them to comprehend his attributes, for they are one with him. So this alone is a very deep concept in Chassidus. I'm trying to explain you something that's unexplainable in a way. But that's the greatness of your mind. That's why you learn, if you open your mind, you'll realize that Chachma, wisdom, our own wisdom, gives us a little bit of a taste of something that's above. And that's what the Gemara says, or the Mishnah says, or somebody who says, I have acquired wisdom, doesn't know what wisdom is. Wisdom gives you the capability to touch the unknown. And thank God, people use their wisdom to do things that are that they never thought they could have done. Comes all through their wisdom, that they have the capability to go beyond themselves. How is that? Through our wisdom, through the capability of touching the unknown. But it's still in the capacity of man. We only can go above our wisdom. Our wisdom is also limited. Why? Because we have, it's again, two different subjects. It's ourself and our wisdom. But that's why the Zohar says the Eibush is now you can't separate God from anything. You can't separate God from the world. You surely can't separate God from his attributes. So until now, we have been speaking a specific attribute of Gedula or Chesed. After Rebbe now goes and says that just as this attribute, responsible creation, is unfathomable, so to regard to attribute of Gevura. What is Gevura Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What is the strength of God? Hagadol Hagibar. You have the Gibar, the second word in this. This is in Shmoneh Esrei. We say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Hagadol Hagibar. V'hanoira, those three words. Hagadol, God is great. God is most powerful. And God is most awesome. What is Hagadol? Is Chesed. God is great, unlimited kindness. Now, what is Gibar? Gibar is severity or strength. In Kabbalah, it's contraction. The Eibishter contracted himself. That's Gibur. So Chesed is to embrace. Gevura is to hold back. The function of this attribute is to conceal from the created beings the activating force within them. And you'll understand this concept that within this aspect of contraction is the greatest kindness. We call it Gibur, we call it Gevura, but it's within it the greatest kindness, because everything is based on kindness. Right? If we connect kindness to wisdom, so everything comes from wisdom, and everything is based on kindness. So even God's gevura, even God's contraction, and God's severity, so to say, is also kindness. It's actually the deepest aspect of kindness. Why? Because where does God show his kindness? When he gives a human being its own entity. If God would want to reveal himself, and that would automatically nullify the humanity, what would give humanity? Humanity would not be in existence. So the Eibishter has gevura, and that gives another person their capability. The truth is, we need to learn from that also. Our kindness, we have love in this world. Baruch Hashem, we love other people. But we have to realize that our love cannot consume another person. We need to give the other person space. We need to not take away another person's ability, another person's identity, because we love them. If you really love them, is by making them great. Then you truly love another person, by putting them on a pedestal, by uplifting them. How do you do that? That's gevura. That is by holding back yourself a little bit to make sure that that other person has his or her own identity. And that's true love. Some of us, many of us in the world, we have love and we consume another person. We become abusive. While we love you, the love is so that they become abusive to another person out of love. And that's not real love. So the function of this attribute to conceal from the created being, the acted and force within them, enabling them to exist as a tangible entity instead of being utterly nullified within their source. That's gevura. That is contraction. That is where God, that's what it says in a different expression. Where you see the greatness of God is in the humility of God. Where do you see the greatness of chesed is where we are walking around. Within us, we have a godly spark, and we feel our own identity. Even though within us, we have the most strongest power in the world. We have a part of God within us, which is unlimited. But Baruch Hashem, the Eibishter contracted it so well that we are walking with the most powerful thing in the world, and we don't feel it. It gives us our life. It gives us our identity. It gives us our existence, and we still don't feel it. Why? Because it's hidden within us. And the Eibishter made sure to package it well. And that's the greatness of God. So after that, so just like it's impossible for the mind of a creative apprehend the attribute of Gedula, greatness, which is chesed, which ability to create beings out of nothing and give them life, as is written, the world was built and created through the attribute of chesed, through the attribute of kindness. The whole world stands on kindness. Kindness of God. Because God continues to create the world from nothing. That's the ultimate kindness. Kach mamish. So too, it's truly impossible. It's hard for us to comprehend God's gevura. That's why we need to learn from God what means respecting another person. What means giving space to somebody else? God, who has the ultimate of chesed, wants to give everything, understands that if he would give everything in a way in not a contracted way, everything will be nothing. Everything will be part of him, which isn't that wonderful? That would be great. We'll all be part of God, but we'd all lose our identity. And God loves us. God wants a human being to have his own identity. He doesn't want a person to lose his identity. He wants him to have his identity. That's unbelievable. It's hard for us to get. Why would God do that? Why would God do that? That's why it's hard for us to understand why did God do all this? because we would never do such a thing. And not because we love it, because our chesed, because our kindness, we would never do such a thing in such a manner. To restrain the spreading forth of life from his attribute of Gedula. We can't comprehend. Why would God constrain himself? Because God loves us. So it's very hard for us to comprehend this concept. To prevent it from descending upon the manifest itself in the created and providing them with life and existence in a revealed manner, but rather with his concepts concealed. We have a struggle with that. That's why we, coming from the days of Sfira Saima, that even the students of Rabbi Akiva that loved one another didn't respect one another. We needed to learn respect of one another, which we all struggle with. Ahavas Yisrael. We struggle, Ahavas Yisrael, loving one another, and for surely in the second part of loving one another, to respect one another, to give one another their space. It's hard for us to deal with that because we always are we're threatened by somebody else in our space. We feel there's no other room for somebody else in our space. It's hard to give space to another person in our space. And we can't understand how God, and that's why we struggle with God, the same concept. God is the ultimate aspect of chesed. He gives to everything. And why would he not reveal himself? Why would God not reveal himself? And then the whole world will become him. And God says, no, because I want a world. My whole point to creation of the world is that there will be a world, there will be a tachten, there will be a concept of a lower world. There will be a world that has its own identity. Because I love the world. Again, if we can learn from that concept, that really by giving somebody else their identity, by uplifting somebody else, we're uplifting ourselves. We are truly giving ourselves this concept. We're giving not only a purpose to the other person, but we're actually giving the purpose to ourselves. And even though it's humbling ourselves by giving space to somebody else, by giving somebody else their greatness, their capabilities. God needed to, so to say, hide himself. Divine activating force is at work within creation in a concealed manner. Thus, it's the attribute of Gevura and Tzimtzum that enables the life force to become concealed for every creature it creates. The life or the life force conceals itself in the body of the created being, making it appear as if the body of the created being has an independent existence. And making it appear as though the created being was not merely an extension of the life force and the spirituality that created it. So ultimately, we don't feel that the ray of light is like comes from the sun. We don't feel that. We feel that we have our own existence, and we are in power of our own existence. We are totally in control of it, and all our life is totally in our control. Push it. We control whether we're going to be healthy or sick or rich or poor. We're totally in control. Totally in control. We have that feeling. And we do have that feeling. And the truth is, Baba Maisa, you're totally in the Eivishter's control. Without that, without God wanting it to happen, it would not happen. But we don't feel that way. We don't feel that way. Because we don't feel that that the ray of the sun, so to say, the energy that's in our being is all connected to the sun. It's all connected to Chesed Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the kindness of God. Even though in truth, you're going to think about it, you're going to come to the realization that in truth, that although in reality the created being has no independent existence, we do not have a dependent existence. It's only a diffusion of the light from the sun. It's only like the light of the sun. We are here because God wants us to be here. We have existence, we live, and we survive, and we all because the Eibishter wants us to be here. Just as the sun rays are merely the diffusion from the sun, so too all creation is but a diffusion of God's activating force. That's it. Since, however, created beings are continually found within their source, unlike the sun's ray, which do leave their source, the divine source should cause them to be completely nullified within them, just as the light of the sun is a state of complete nullification when found in the sun. So why doesn't we become nullified? Nevertheless, this nullification is not felt by the created beings. We don't feel it. It's a belief. It's a belief. That's why it's a belief. We believe in God. Imagine if we saw it. Imagine if we had the capability of feeling it. It's not felt by the created beings. That's the greatness of God. God hid himself so well that Pashut, even though we have come to a conclusion that that is the truth is that we are in existence because of God's existence, we don't feel it. Only the Eibishter can take something that's unlimited, chesed, that is unlimited, and hide it so well. That doesn't make sense. How do you take an unlimited aspect and make it into seemingly such a limited concept? How do you do that? Only God can take an unlimited aspect and make it limited. Even if we give an analogy of energy, for example, so you have the energy that comes from the station that ultimately comes to your plug is a very contractions, but the station also has a limit. So if it would be unlimited, it wouldn't be able to come into your plug in your house. So even there will be 20 transformers, which transforms the power, it will still be impossible because unlimited power cannot be limited. So you cannot take unlimited, so therefore it's limited. Even the power that comes from the station is limited. So you can take a limited concept and limit it and make it more limited and make it more limited and make it more limited because it's all limited. But how do you take Hagodel? How do you take Hagodel, which is unlimited? How do you take Chesed of God, which is unlimited, and make it limited? It's just impossible. It's just impossible. Only God can take an unlimited aspect and create it a limited, and to be able to make that a person, it becomes so limited that the person doesn't even feel it. The truth is, if you put your hand into the socket, you're going to get a shock. Over here, your hand is in the socket. your power is in you, and you don't get no shocks. You don't get no feeling. You have no feeling. There's no feeling, even though you have an unlimited power within you. Within each and every one of us, we have an neshama that is unlimited, and we don't feel it. And we don't feel it. So that's even greater than the concept of the unlimited. To be able to take an unlimited aspect and put it into a finite being, and that finite being does not feel this unlimited concept, that's Hagibar. That's where you see the greatness, true greatness of God. Because no human being can ever fathom of being able to do something that, and nobody understand how can God do it himself. How do you do? It's not a comprehended thing. I'm saying it, but it's not comprehended. How do you comprehend taking something that's unlimited and putting it into a limited thing? Wouldn't the unlimited take over the limited? When you have a unlimited thing in your being, wouldn't that unlimited thing ultimately break the vessel, burst the vessel? It would naturally, with sense, it would burst it. It would ultimately take it over. It would ultimately nullify the limited because it's unlimited. The Eibishter is only one who can take a chesed, which the attribute of chesed, which is unlimited, and put it into a limit. And that's why you say again every morning, Moida ani lefanecha asher zayta bi nishmas. The Eibishter took a neshama, which is unlimited, and forced it in my limited body. That's the greatest wonder of the world. We take life for granted. We take it for granted. We think this is Pasha the normal way. This is natural. This is Pasha normal. Why life is normal. We take it so normal that we get angry or we get frustrated when it doesn't work. Chas v'shalom. But it's not. It's one of the wonders of creation that I wake up in the morning and I have my Eibush that gave me back the neshama. Not only that I'm alive, not only that I'm existence. No, the existence is a wonder of God. My existence is a wonder of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's one of the wonders of God that I am in existence because my existence is unlimited. The power of my existence, my neshama, is unlimited, and it has come down into such a limited body. And that's why ultimately you have to come to the conclusion, if you believe in God, that you are unlimited. There's nothing that stands before the soul. There's no true struggle between the soul and the body. It's in my mind that there's a struggle between the soul and the body. There's no struggle because you can't have a struggle between the unlimited and the limited. You can have a struggle between the limited and the limited. You can't have a struggle between something that is a neshama that's unlimited and a body that is limited. How is there a struggle? There's no struggle. It's a fantasy of a struggle. It's your illusion that there's a struggle. You have no struggle. And that's why the Rebbe says, Chassidus teaches us that when I overcome my struggle, I realize there was never a struggle. It was all in my mind. There was never a struggle. Because there is not a struggle. It's impossible to have a struggle between the unlimited and the limited. There is no struggle between God and the world. There is no struggle between the soul and the body. There's no struggle. There's no struggle between wisdom and understanding. There's no struggle. It's again in our understanding there's a struggle, but not in reality. In truth, which is reality, there is no struggle because I'm unlimited. The greatness of God is that He took this unlimited entity, He put it in my body, which is very limited, put it in my understanding, which is extremely limited. And the Eibishter hid that concept so that it would become, it had the capability to come in the unlimited, into the limited, which is an unbelievable miracle. An unbelievable miracle. And hence able to condense the life force and the spirituality, which is from the breath of his mouth, and to conceal it. So that the body of the created being shall not become nullified of existence. You can imagine what kind of nitek, what kind of a sheath, what kind of a box the Eibush should need to put this neshama in so that this neshama should not nullify the body. And hence, with notwithstanding the fact that the created being is but a diffusion of the ray of its source, it is thus able to perceive itself to be an independent existing entity, even though it's not true. But the Alter Rebbe continues. He says, it's beyond the scope of the mind of any creation to comprehend the essential nature of tzimtzum. It's hard to comprehend. How is it possible in this concept? How is it possible? How do you take something that's unlimited and put it into a limit? It doesn't make any sense. It's a ness. It's a ness. And again, that's why we say that the only way that the neshama comes in my body is because God wants the neshama to come in my body, not because it makes any sense. Not because it makes sense that my neshama is in my body. It does not make any sense. To comprehend that nothing, nonetheless, the tzimtzum notwithstanding, the creation itself be created ex nihilo. However, since creation is an act of revelation rather than concealment, created ex nihilo should surely consist of the relation of divine force within the created being. How then do both of these things manifest themselves at the same time? We're in existence because of chesed, and we have our self-identity because of gevura. Hope I'm not driving you crazy. So we're in existence because of chesed. That's why we're in existence, because of kindness of God, God's light, and we have our identity because of gevura. Two opposites. Chesed is giving, gevura is contracting. How do we have existence from God by these two concepts working in unison? We're learning very deep concepts of Chassidus, and you need to really, as I say this over and over, you need to learn this a couple of times to understand what the Alter Rebbe, what Chassidus Kabbalah wants to teach us over here. Very deep aspect in creation, understanding how we are here, and what is the purpose in learning, in understanding this concept. The concept of these two powers, Chesed and Gevura, the attribute of kindness and severity that are working within humanity. To give life, you need chesed. To give life, you need the divine attribute to give. To give the concept of identity, you need gevura. So there's always a chayzer and a shuv. There's always that pull and take. That's why the neshama always wants to go above, always wants to return to its source, and then he has a shuv. It realizes it needs to have come back into the world. It needs to have this constant give and take, because it has within it the concept of chesed, which is to give, and it has the concept of gevura. So on one hand, the revelation of divine force. On the other hand, the condensement and the concealment of the life force, so that the created being will be unaware of it and consider himself to be independently existence entities and not utterly nullified in their source. Indeed, the paradox of tzimtzum defies the comprehension of mere created beings. And that's why we say, Oisha Shalom B'mreiba, one of the expressions, the Eibishter makes peace with these two aspects. The concept of chesed and the aspect of gevura. They're two opposites, but the world would not exist without these two concepts. The world would not exist without chesed and gevura. And not only not exist without chesed and gevura, these two attributes on their own, they would not exist if not these two attributes would work in unison. They would work two attributes that are contradicting, and to be able to work together, which in a human sense, in a human mind, it doesn't work. These two concepts don't work together. Either you're chesed or gevura. Sometimes you're chesed, sometimes you're gevura. But to them to work together as one, even though they're opposites, to give and take at the same moment, to be chesed, to give, totally be giving, and at the same moment to contract. How do you do that? Just as it's not within the capacity of the mind of any creature to comprehend the essential nature of creation, of being out of nothing, which we cannot comprehend. Since the capacity of tzimtzum emanates the divine attribute gevura, one might erroneously infer that the actual service to create is an independent existent entity. Not only does the created being regard itself as such, but the creator views it as well. So much that God causes this concealment. And the attribute of gevura, the ability to conceal, is as real, as effective as the attribute gedula, which is chesed, his ability to reveal. We may mistakenly liken creation to the sun's rays so far that they exist beyond the confines of the sun's globe. Forestall this possible error. The Alter Rebbe now explains that the God's power to reveal and his power to conceal are truly one and in the same. For revelation and concealment are respectively and its vessel, which are fused in complete and total unity. Learning again the concept of Kabbalah, v'kli. If you want to give another analogy to chesed and gevura, is and kli, a light and its vessel. The light and its vessel. The light is chesed, which is to give. The kli is to confine it. The kli is gevura. The Eibishter, the oil and the kli are the same. By us, it's two different entities. We have the oil, the light, and we have the vessel, which we put into the light. Put the light into. By the Eibishter, the oil and the kli are the same. They're both a creation of his. Moreover, the state in which they exist in their supernal source, they're not only united, they're one and the same. Now it's axiomatic that no entity can conceal itself from itself. That's the problem. How does one conceal himself from himself? That's what we're saying of God, that he conceals himself from himself. Hard for a person to understand this. An allusion to this concept is found in Shulchan Aruch, which states that covering one's head with one's hand does not serve as a valid head covering, because the head and the hand are part of the self-same individual. The hand cannot be concealed that which the head itself reveals. So if you want, you were supposed to hear yarmulke. If you cover your head with your head, you're not covering. But what do you mean? It's a separate entity. No, it's not. It's concealed. Your head is part of your head. So if your head is revealing something that needs to be covered, your hand does not take away that revelation. Same is true here. Since the power to reveal and the power to conceal are essentially one and the same power, which is a manifestation of God's limitless ability, it's impossible for tzimtzum to bring about a real concealment that will be so regarded when viewed from the divine perspective. So therefore, the whole concept of contraction is not by God. God cannot contract himself. Tzimtzum only enables created beings to perceive themselves as an independent existent entity. God does not view them in this way at all. So all this whole concept that we have been learning about tzimtzum is all concerning humanity, the way humans see God, but not the way God sees himself. And the Alter Rebbe is not finished. So you have to come back tomorrow to go further into this concept of what he's trying to explain. that we should understand and comprehend how the Eibishter ultimately brought about this whole fusion within the world, and which is the basis of our belief, Emunas Hashem, faith in God. And what is our belief and faith in God? Yishara Yichud V'Emunah, the portal of oneness and faith of our understanding and our faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, it's very important, these chapters of Tanya, to try to learn this again and again, to be able to, as the Alter Rebbe says, it's hard to us to understand something, but still know we need to try to break our heads and to get some kind of understanding in this teaching. But we're going to continue in Mitzvah tomorrow. Today is the 14th day of the month, which is chapter 72 to chapter 76. You say those 5 chapters of Psalms, chapter 72 to chapter 76, you would do the chitas of the day. I wish you all a great day, a beautiful day. And in Mitzvah, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll continue the chitas.